Welcome to Altered Mates, a philosophical podcast hosted by Alejandro Tuama and Tobias Penno, two mates fascinated by altered states. Stay tuned for a conversational journey through the murky depths of consciousness, psyche, and the human experience. To find out more to support the podcast, please go to alteredmates.com. We hope you enjoy the ride.
I remember not that long ago that it was, at least in some of the more boyish circles that I was a part of in my younger years, that it was a massive compliment if someone said to you that you were a mad dog. Yeah, check this guy out. He's a mad dog. Anyway, that's just a little interesting side piece that I wanted to share with you, because this episode that you're about to listen to is the first of a series of episodes dedicated to the exploration of psychosis, schizophrenia, and madness. And we invite you to join us as we embark on this journey into pretty dark and often bizarre realms. So this episode in particular, we try to cover the basics of psychosis, a somewhat lighthearted attempt to summarize the mainstream understanding of what schizophrenia and psychosis are. This is the groundwork before the following episodes, where we take an even deeper dive into psychosis, exploring many different models, ideas, and some pretty fascinating histories. Spoiler, one of the episodes is dedicated to exploring the time when researchers gave LSD to psychotic children as part of a last-ditch effort to help them. And so amongst all of this, and throughout this journey, my understanding, and I think Alejandro's understanding as well, of the nature of schizophrenia, psychosis, and madness has shifted radically. And I guess it is our hope that your understanding as well will evolve from listening to this series. And right at the beginning, in this first episode, I do offer a bit of a summary of that evolution of understanding, or at least a core note on that summary about my understanding of the model of psychedelics as being psychotomimetics versus being psychedelics. And I just want to make sure that you understand the word psychotomimetic, because I don't explain it in this first part. So if you don't already know, psychotomimetic refers to an earlier name for psychedelics that was coined based on the idea that the psychedelic experience mimicked the psychotic experience. And so my understanding of whether that's true or not has evolved throughout this journey. And I wanted to be clear about that because I want to know what you think and how your understanding of psychosis has evolved from listening to this series. And I really hope that we can have some ongoing conversations about this way of understanding. So I invite you now to sit back, take a deep breath, and drop in with us as we begin this voyage into madness.
Yeah, so we had a lot to... we're at the start of our journey. That's what we were saying before. Investigating this topic, this phenomenon.
Yes.
That's schizophrenia, psychosis, psychotic episodes, and a whole collection of strange experiences and symptoms, and a community trying to figure out what's going on. But I think, we decided that we were going to try to start a bit more normie, a bit more mainstream, a bit more medical model, and just try and figure out how it is that the mainstream sees schizophrenia and psychosis, and once we've established that for ourselves, then we can kind of move on and test out some fringier, some fringier ideas and explanations for what it is that's going on.
Yeah, and I have an invitation to our listeners.
Oh yeah,
which because for me on my journey of understanding, I have transitioned. So originally, I had relegated psychosis to this kind of very medical understanding that was like, oh, that's when someone's brain has really has become dysfunctional. Yeah. And
like, are you talking like structural?
Yeah, kind of like something's broken.
Something's broken in there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. That's exactly how I thought of it. And so then at that point in time when, I read about the history of psychedelics and how originally they were like, oh, these are psychotomimetics. And I was, happy to read that somebody had got rid of that idea and replaced it with psychedelic, mind manifesting. And so, I had kind of accepted this rejection of psychedelics as psychotomimetics. Like, no, they don't mimic psychosis. They do this other really special thing, this mystical, expansive, cool thing over here, which is totally different to this medical, dysfunctional thing over there.
So like psychosis, that's kind of crazy, broken brain. Psychedelic, that's more like divine, spiritual brain.
Yep, that's how I viewed it.
And that's how you were comfy in that.
Yep. But then as I have been, and I'm still smack bang, I dare say, in the middle of this journey of understanding. So this could change again. But at this stage, I'm thinking that psychotomimetic might actually have some truth to it. And that is not because my perception of psychedelics has changed. It's because my perception of psychosis has changed. So the invitation is to come along for this journey, which will probably be over several episodes.
I dare say. And like with the other topics, like this is just us opening it up. Oh my God. So listeners, you might be able to hear Tobias's phone going off. That is so unprofessional. And he's looking around like, what are you looking?
It's on Do Not Disturb. I don't understand how.
That is weird. And it was a weird kind of ringtone as well. Or is that your usual vibration?
I received a missed call.
By all means.
Perhaps. Perhaps this person is on my list of special callers that bypasses the...
Okay.
Anywho.
I thought I was the only one on that list. Let's try and recover the episode after that. I think what would be useful, because we've thrown out a bunch of terms already.
Yes.
What's the difference between psychosis and schizophrenia?
Well, in the classic medical understanding, one is a symptom and one is a diagnosis.
Okay,
so schizophrenia is a category of diagnosis in the DSM-V TR. Yeah. If there's a section of the DSM, a whole sort of a broader category under which there are many categories, and this is called the schizophrenia spectrum and other psychotic disorders, under which there are many, starting with perhaps the less intense ones like delusional disorder, where the focus is more on somebody experiencing just delusions, and then moves on to something which is called brief psychotic disorder. So here you can see the word psychosis is inbuilt into this diagnosis, and then it goes schizophreniform, and then I think there's one more, and then you get to schizophrenia. And so each one of these different categories has, if you look in the DSM, in the online version, there's this like square box that it puts around the section where it writes the diagnostic criteria. And this is the official, this is what the person must be having. These are the signs, these are the symptoms. that would enable a psychiatrist or other professional to diagnose the person with that illness, quote unquote. And so psychosis is it's a symptom of many of these so-called disorders.
Okay. So here I've got something from the Very Well website. Which is, I mean, that's a pretty good indication of what's like mainstream thought, right? Like it's just a popular website.
Yeah.
Psychosis is a symptom. Signs include hallucinations, delusions, agitation. May be caused by substance use, sleep deprivation, or conditions like schizophrenia. A period of psychosis is called a psychotic episode. Psychosis is not an illness by itself. Instead, it's a possible symptom of a number of different conditions.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. It's not only a symptom of schizophrenia and other psychotic-related disorders. It's a standalone experience that can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean they go downhill and experience long-term sort of psychosis or schizophrenia.
But it's the idea that if you have been diagnosed with schizophrenia, then you're like more likely to experience psychotic episodes.
I don't know whether it speaks specifically to the likelihood, but more it's like criteria C of schizophrenia. So they have a list of criteria. Criteria C is continuous signs of the disturbance persists for at least 6 months. And this 6-month period must include at least 1 month of symptoms that meet criteria A. So criteria A is where you see the classic signs of schizophrenia.
Are these the 5 domains?
These are the 5 domains.
Shall we go? Let's do the 5.
Shall we get into the 5 domains?
Let's do the 5 domains.
So we have 1, delusions. 2, hallucinations. 3, disorganised speech. 4, grossly disorganised or catatonic behaviour. And 5, negative symptoms.
Okay. So I was trying to find some examples of these domains in film and in popular culture and stuff like that. Actually, before I go into that, if we go one by one,
yeah,
because I know that delusions there's common ones. So maybe if we start from the top and go look at kind of one by one the delusions, hallucinations, so far and so on. I mentioned to you before that I found it difficult to find films and TV shows, at least ones that I'd watched, that actually deal with the disorganised thinking, disorganised motor behaviour or catatonia and the negative symptoms.
Yep.
Negative not being like bad symptoms, but being a reduction. So the withdrawal, those kinds of symptoms, going completely quiet. And it seems to be the more glamorous ones, the delusions and hallucinations are popular to do in film. I get, yeah, because it's more glamorous, more interesting. Another thing, just to mention, is that like the hallucinations in film and TV are often visual.
Yeah.
Whereas it is my understanding that the vast majority of hallucinations are auditory for those people experiencing a psychotic episode.
Yeah.
Or psychosis. Schizophrenia.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and so it's specific. It's quite specific to this category of disorders that people talk about negative and positive symptoms. Negative just being, referring to less than normal, quote unquote.
A reduction, a taking away, a withdrawal, rather than adding on something. Yeah, like a voice that wasn't there, or
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. But if we look at delusions, now, so these, if you're experiencing delusions, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be diagnosed as a schizophrenic.
No.
You need to have a few more of them. Because I was just looking down this list and being like, I think there's a lot of people fucking experience these all the time. Anyway, the first one on the list from what I found was persecution. So this is someone or something's out to get me. This is kind of classic paranoia.
Yes.
That the delusion of persecution. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
yeah.
out to get me.
Yeah. And I think, you know, in its extreme form, it's like the CIA have a meticulous plan out for me, and they're, you know, watching my home. There's cameras hidden in all sorts of places, and, you know, that's the extreme version.
That's just reminded me of that film Under the Silver Lake. Did we watch that together? Oh, I'm mistaking my friends. Didn't we? Yeah, we watched it.
Okay.
At the shack. It's the one where Andrew Garfield plays the guy who, spoiler alert, who's probably the dog killer.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, really bizarre.
Super bizarre.
But when he meets that guy who writes the comic book about the owl woman thing, the owl monster, but then that guy's got like his secret little hidden closet room, like his safe room.
Oh, yes.
I think
maybe
you were under the influence.
I was. It was a combination to be reckoned with, to be honest. But, yeah.
And he's got all those cameras set up around his house.
Yeah.
And he is he's scared of. Can you remember what that creature was called? I'm just gonna try to find what it.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Creature that would this lady, and she'd be stalking through the house, and she would while someone was sleeping, I think.
Yes.
Like take their heart out, or I don't know, something scary.
And like typical for that movie, kind of hot. Like also nude.
Yeah.
Just because it's very male gazy.
Yeah.
The owl's kiss.
The owl's
kiss.
That's right. Yeah, and she had the...
Although now I'm looking at like this old school depiction of it there.
Yes.
And even there she's nude. So...
Yes. Yeah, I feel like maybe there was an element of seduction, like she would try to seduce them.
Yeah, and you kind of like got a fear boner happening. So you're like terrified but also aroused.
Yeah. Yes.
Anyway, but that guy was like paranoid of the owl's kiss.
Yeah.
Had all these cameras set up. I guess, ironically, in the end, he was right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right at the end, you see her.
Yeah, and she did kill him. So I guess that's not an example because he was right.
It was true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that really speaks to the problematic nature of these so-called delusions, that they exist on a spectrum from more mild delusional sort of beliefs all the way through to really extreme ones. Mm-hmm. And what defines the mild is and extreme is its proximity to consensus reality.
Yeah,
and
which itself is obviously co-constructed by everybody in the network.
Yeah,
in the community. Okay, so there's that, the paranoia, they're out to get me. Then the next one that I found on my list was erotomanic.
Mm-hmm.
Where
what does this mean? Erotomanic.
Yeah.
So eros, sexy.
Goddamn right.
Manic, like really over the top and excessive, maybe.
So like too sexy. When you're too sexy, and the doctor's like, can't have this guy on the streets.
Delusional.
This is when you believe that someone loves you. Usually that person's of a higher status. But they don't actually love you. This is where people will believe that celebrities are in love with them.
Oh, okay, right. So this isn't just like, that time I had an ex-girlfriend and I was...
And she said that she loves you, but actually she was banging somebody else.
Yeah, yeah. Or like a girl that I was dating that, I thought she was into me, but then she wasn't.
Yeah, where you kind of hug and then you're having a drink and in your mind it's like, and then we're going to get married and then we're going to have kids and we're going to live happily after. And then she's basically like, how do I get out of this date?
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe, I've experienced that amongst friends where from the outside, talking to them and the behaviours of this lover or person that they're engaging with, it's really obvious that that person is not into it. All the signs are there, and really overt signs. And even to the point where, I know I can think of examples where the person has directly told them they're not into them. And despite all of these really overt signs, the person maintains some sort of hidden conviction.
That's the game they're playing.
Yeah, yeah. And I wonder, I guess that shows again how this is a spectrum.
So I think that, I don't know, without knowing too many examples, I think more where this is at the stalker level, where it's the person's never even met the celebrity.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a high status person at work, and there's just these very infrequent interactions, and then the person experiencing this delusion is really misinterpreting all of the, it's oh, she said hello to me, that means she loves me. Or if only this whatever celebrity were to actually meet me, then they would know that we're meant to be together.
Yeah.
I think it's that.
Yeah. I love it. Erotomania.
Erotomania, yeah.
Yeah. So I know that I don't have it. I know that you love me.
Yes.
For sure. So it's okay.
That's mutual.
Wonderful.
I know that you love me too.
I'm glad we're on the same page.
Nobody could tell us otherwise.
I think I know the next type that you're
do
going to. But I'm not sure.
I'm going to give you a clue. It's more common than erotomania. I don't know why the list is in this number.
Is it the one that people who go on really heroic psychedelic journeys are liable to coming out the other side with?
I was going to say this one is more applicable to you. This is...
I don't understand.
I know, that's the problem. People don't know when they're in it. So this is grandiose, the grandeur.
Oh, okay, yeah, of course. I am grand.
Yeah.
Yes, you were right. You were right.
Thank you for this is the belief that you're superior to others.
Oh, I see. Well, I mean, grandeur is a relative thing. So, for me, it's not about being better than others. It's just being grand.
It's just being who you are.
I'm just who I am.
Just being the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's it. The grandeur, thinking you're superior to other people. I read down here, so belief that you have superpowers. The belief that you're famous, that you're wealthy. Those ones feel strange to me because it's couldn't you be quite clearly corrected on that?
Well,
if you think you're wealthy, and then what if you just open up your bank account and be as it turns out, I'm not.
Well, that's the hallmark of a delusional state, is that the person maintains the conviction despite very clear evidence to the contrary.
It's no, I've got a secret bank account, and in there is all my wealth.
Yeah.
The other one, or the last one on my list here, is the belief that you're a god, which is that one that's
the psychedelic
where you go have your heroic dose and you realize that you're God.
Yeah. And we've talked about this in previous episodes where Alan Watts talks about the danger of that experience in a society who has a Christian kind of religion where God is the King of Kings. So when you realize you're God here, you're I am the King of Kings. And it becomes...
Time to start handing down lessons to everybody. Got to pick up some disciples now.
Yep.
Yeah, instead of the other kind of God, which is just everything, the universe.
Yeah.
And then you're just all connected with everybody else.
Yeah. That's it. And as he describes in India, where that sort of myth of God is more like that. People tell each other that they realize they're God, and they're kind of yeah, cool, man. Good for you. Good for you. That's, they just kind of take it in their stride.
We were waiting for that. We all realized you were God.
Yeah.
We all knew.
We knew. We were waiting. We're so
Yeah.
excited that you know.
We're
now.
all God as well.
Yeah, we're all God. This is a
Finally.
big drama, and we're just the many faces of God having a big play with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but that's the delusions of grandeur.
Yep.
But because this whole like belief that you're superior, like I think that belief helps some people to achieve success in life. You know, that it's like people, you know what I mean?
I'm just connecting this with manifestation.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like I am successful. I am great. If you maintain that and you affirm that to yourself sufficiently, then it kind of brings you towards that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I guess there's a weird bit here in the semantics and the language of being superior, because then that kind of implies that the possibility of being superior, you know, that like for someone to be superior means that it has to be possible to be superior.
That's a good
like,
point.
I am better than you.
Yeah. And I wonder, I mean, I haven't thought too much about this, but I wonder whether delusions of grandiosity always come with a sense of superiority or not.
Yeah, or
Because
whether it's...
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because you can have, like, the delusion that you're incredibly wealthy.
And not think that is
and not think
special.
I'm better. It's just like, hey, you know, it's great being rich, isn't it?
Yeah. Although presumably if they have created a sort of like a break from reality to maintain this kind of delusion, then you would think that would be for a reason. That's on the assumption that psychosis has some sort of rationality or some sort of explanation underneath it, which is to come.
That's to come, yeah. So underneath grandiose is, on my list, is jealous.
Uh-huh.
So I was surprised that actually this would be a whole subcategory of itself. The belief that a partner is unfaithful.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the delusion that, and so finding like...
Sorry, this is terrible. I'm just thinking like...
We said we weren't going to laugh at
I'm not laughing at the delusional person.
You're
I'm
laughing at the mentally
situation. Ill. No, I'm laughing at the dodgy, dirty, like old man. You know, the man comes in with his wife to the psychiatrist.
Yeah, and
he's like
a little nose tap, a little.
Yeah. She thinks that I've been cheating on her this whole time. And the psychiatrist is like, "I got you,
like,
buddy.
Mm-hmm. I've seen this before. Classic." Yep, let's treat her.
That's terrible. That is terrible. If there's any truth to that.
So, but I think, I don't know, from what I could gather, it's like probably obviously similar to the erotomania in that, you know, kind of field, but this is where you're with a partner and there's the belief that they're cheating on you, and you just, no amount of evidence is going to sway you, and it involves behaviours like compulsively checking the bed for signs and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. That makes sense. And yeah, I'm sure there's very real examples of that. And I guess it's, it checks out with the rest of it. Okay. So...
Well, the last one I got one more on the
Oh,
list,
cool.
which is somatic. So this is
yes.
what, I can't remember if we'd already pressed record yet, but you were kind of talking about this kind of thing with the magic. This is the belief that's, something's wrong with their body. So it's like, so falsely believing something's wrong with your body despite tests or all that kind of stuff. So it's like, you mentioned, and I can't remember if we were recording yet, the person who believed that someone had replaced their internal organs with someone else's internal organs with no signs of wounding.
Yes.
So I think that we'd file that under this one.
Yep.
The somatic. Something's wrong with my body. I was also wondering, like, is there crossover with body dysmorphia? So that idea where you have like this, when you look at your body, it's way out from what everyone else looking at your body thinks. Like you look at your body and see, so when I look at my body, I see a ripped, muscly, very, very handsome gentleman, and everyone else is like, It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's
Pretty
a
good.
grandiose somatic
Pretty good, Rick.
delusion.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting comment, and I have not put my mind to it at all. But presumably, it checks out that there's a sense of somatic, like that somatic delusion and body dysmorphia have maybe there's a Venn diagram and there's some.
It's almost
ground.
like internal and external. That like when I look in the mirror and I see my body, that's kind of like the dysmorphia thing. But then the belief that I've got cancer, because that was a common one, that's like is more of like an internal, that I'm getting like some signs from in my body that there's something wrong. And then you do all these tests and the doctor's like, there's nothing fucking wrong with you. You know?
Okay, yeah. So they do seem like quite distinct things. One is perceptually oriented, and one is more okay. That's interesting to be discontinued, I think.
Yeah. Well, I found in my mind. This reminded me, when I was looking at this somatic, it reminded me of Better Call Saul. So I think I might have brought this up in the failed episode that we did. So in Better Call Saul, this is a spin-off from Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad was about cooking meth. And Better Call Saul is Saul Goodman, the lawyer. It's a fucking good show. I watched it during one school holidays when I was very sick. And so I spent a lot of time on the couch watching this show. Uh-huh. Anyway, Better Call Saul. Saul's a lawyer. His older brother was like a very well-respected lawyer. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, the biggest lawyer in town or whatever. But when we see him in the present, he's a recluse. So he's living alone in his house, and he's stripped all the wiring out of the house, and there's only candles. When Saul or anybody arrives at his house, they have to put their mobile phone in the letterbox out the front, and then they can come in, because he believes he suffers from electromagnetic hypersensitivity. Mm-hmm. So he believes that those electromagnetic waves or whatever it is are negatively affecting his body.
Yep.
Now, in the show, there is a doctor that like there's a scene where it's kind of disproven, as in like he has to go to hospital one time, and then the doctor like plays a bit of a trick and has a mobile phone, kind of sneaks it into his room and puts it next to him, and he doesn't notice it.
Right.
And so that's like so you're not actually...
You can't feel anything.
Yeah, you don't actually... Yeah, exactly.
This is psychosomatic, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was, I think, in that similar kind of field where it's this idea of like, something's happening to my body, it's going wrong.
Yes.
Whereas it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that is the variety of delusions.
That's delusions.
That's delusions 1.
Hold on. I need more coffee.
Okay.
So, the next one on the list of domains is hallucinations. And I think that for me, like, this is where the fascination started. When I first basically discovered that there was such a thing as hallucinating. I think like... So I think I've said this before, I don't know if when we were recording, but like at school in health class, when we were doing like drug education, had the pamphlets, the stimulants, depressants, and the hallucinogens. And, and they're designed to be deterrents, to be like, look out for these. But I was like, yeah, this is like a shopping list. This is the to-do list.
That's interesting.
But
They got me. I was like,
Nerd!
I actually didn't take any hard... Like, I drank alcohol and I smoked weed when I was younger, but I didn't take any hard...
No injecting?
Didn't take any harder, quote-unquote, drugs like MDMA, psychedelic, etc. until I was over 25 years old, because what they told me was that your brain is still growing until you're 25. So I was like, I'm not going to...
But alcohol's fine, not a growing brain.
Yeah.
They looked at you, they're like, you got too many brain cells, bro.
Yep.
Dumb down a bit.
Yeah.
Too smart.
Yeah. Man, imagine how smart we would be if we replaced all of our drinking with psychedelics.
Well, I mean, maybe it's for another day, because I've wondered what would have happened if I had, say, done a whole shitload of acid instead of binge drinking. And I don't know. Because the other thing is, one of my fascinations with schizophrenia and psychosis, so I first found out about schizophrenia, I think, was when I was at uni and stumbled into a psychology major and started to learn about this through a unit called abnormal psychology, and then I was kind of fascinated. I think it's probably films that I watched that might have exposed me to it, but I was fascinated. And so, but I think for me, it's kind of on both sides. I was attracted to the idea that you could take these drugs that could give you visions, and I was also fascinated by the idea that they could come about without any drugs for some people, and I was perhaps a little bit curious and concerned that I might be one of those people who is more liable to experiencing.
Why did you think that you... What was your fascination? Like, why were you fascinated in that? Like, what?
I don't know. I think it's just one of those things where it's like you start reading about it and it's like, oh, this is interesting. You know, just like anything. It's like, why do some people like cars and not? And why do, you know, why are you drawn to these things? And it's like an unconscious, it's just like there's something for you here, man. Like,
or you were like, Neo in the Matrix. An itch was bothering you. Like a mental splinter about the nature of reality.
That's what I mean.
Dissatisfied with the normal narrative. For some
reason, I looked at the quote unquote real world or the world, and I thought, this is not the complete picture. There's something else going on, and then finding out about hallucinations, that kind of stuff, just seemed interesting.
That's interesting. I'm just thinking, like, for you are like Neo in the Matrix. You felt that something was wrong from the get-go, and you went and sorted out. Whereas for me, I'm the opposite, and
you were in the Matrix and loving it.
I didn't know until I had an experience where I was snapped out.
Yeah,
it happened to me more than I sorted out. Yeah.
Was it the experience of ayahuasca?
Yes. Yeah. Except I guess in my case, I was in the, they say that some minds reject it and some accept it. In the film, I accepted.
You accepted the Matrix.
I accepted. No. What I mean is
once you get pulled out into the real world.
Yeah.
He's gonna pop. Anyway, so hallucinations. As I said before, it's most commonly auditory hallucinations, hearing voices.
Yeah. And just to give our listeners a statistic, I think the rates of schizophrenia, are in the realm of 3%, whereas the rates of people who hear voices in the general population is more like 15%. So there's a huge number of people who hear voices that they don't reference as just their own thoughts, that are felt to be some external voice, who don't have any psychotic disorder. So most of the hallucinations of the variety of psychotic related disorders are auditory, but then there are also the visual ones, which are the ones that tend to get portrayed in films.
Yeah, one good example is Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I think this is like a classic. I wouldn't mind that because it's a classic meme. And it's also like a pretty classic scene. This is where Mac and Charlie get a job in order to get healthcare.
Uh-huh.
So they interview for a job together, and they basically share this job. They've never had a job before, and they're working in the mailroom, or at least Charlie's working in the mailroom, and Mac is up on the floor and trying to like get his way into the company. Charlie's in the mailroom, and I would say this is like stress induced, but he has like a psychotic episode. And you see there's one scene where Mac walks in and Charlie has like the classic kind of the wall is just covered in mail, all sorts of lines going from one to the other, that kind of spider web of craziness.
Yeah.
And he's speaking at like rapidly motor mouth, and he basically thinks he's uncovered this conspiracy, this plot, that basically all the mail, all the people on the mail don't exist. He's like, I tried to go talk to Carol in HR about this problem, and you know what I found out? There is no Carol in HR. He's talking about Pepe Sylvia.
Sylvia.
I'm seeing all this directed to Pepe Sylvia. Pepe Sylvia. There's no Pepe Sylvia. I've heard like a fan theory that that Pepe Sylvia is him reading Pennsylvania and just misinterpreting it because he can't read. He's illiterate. Like that's just the reality of Charlie.
They're on to me, dude. Those guys are sharp as nails up there. You can't put anything past them. Oh my God, dude, I'm freaking out. I am so stressed out. I feel like I'm having a panic attack.
You want to talk about stress? You want to talk about stress? Okay? I've stumbled onto a major company conspiracy, Mac. How about that for stress?
What the hell are you talking about?
This company is being bled like a stuffed pig, Mac, and I got a paper trail to prove it. Check this out. Take a look at this.
Jesus Christ,
That
Charlie.
right there is the mail. Now let's talk about the mail. Can we talk about the mail, please, Mac? I'm dying to talk about the mail with you all day, okay? Pepe Sylvia. This name keeps coming up over and over again. Every day, Pepe's mail's getting sent back to me. Pepe Sylvia, Pepe Sylvia. I look at the mail. Well, this whole box is Pepe Sylvia. So I say to myself, I gotta find this guy. I gotta go up to his office. I gotta put his mail in the guy's goddamn hands. Otherwise, he's never gonna get it. It's gonna keep coming back down here. So I go up to Pepe's office, and what do I find out, Mac? What do I find out? There is no Pepe Sylvia. The man does not exist, okay? So I decided, oh, shit, buddy, I gotta dig a little deeper. There's no Pepe Sylvia. You gotta be kidding me. I got boxes full of Pepe. All right, so I start marching my way down to Carol in HR, and I knock on her door, and I say, Carol, I gotta talk to you about Pepe. And when I open the door, what do I find? There's not a single goddamn desk in that office. There is no Carol in HR. Mac, half the employees in this building have been made up. This office is a goddamn ghost town.
Okay, Charlie, I'm gonna have to stop you right there. Not only do all of these people exist, but they have been asking for their mail on a daily basis. It's all they're talking about up there. Jesus Christ, dude. We are gonna lose our jobs.
Well, calm down, because here's one thing that's not gonna happen.
What?
We're not gonna get fired.
We're not.
Because we've already been fired.
We've lost our jobs?
Yeah. About 3 days ago, a couple pink slips came in the mail. One for you, one for me. So what did I do? I mailed them halfway to Siberia, okay?
If we've lost our jobs, that means we lost our health insurance, which means all of this was for nothing. God damn it, dude. I'm having a panic attack. I'm actually having a panic
Will you
attack.
settle down and have another cup of coffee?
I am, bro.
All right, well, fine. You know what, Barney? Give this guy a cigarette. He's freaking out.
Huh? Who?
Barney. He's the guy who tipped me off to Pepe Sylvia.
Barney? Who the hell is Barney?
You don't see Oh, shit. What the hell did he...
You've lost your mind. You've lost your goddamn mind, Charlie.
So that's
There's
Charlie.
a classic meme that is all over the internet where you see him pointing to that board of insanity.
Yes.
With this crazed look in his eyes, and I think they're a bit bloodshot, like he hasn't slept, and, and he's all disheveled.
Smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee. So that one is, it combines the delusions that like there's a whole conspiracy, that he's uncovered a conspiracy where nobody in the office actually exists. But he's wrong about that. And then he's hallucinating. Yeah, he's got like an imaginary person who's been guiding him in this process.
Yeah.
So I thought, like, if I was trying to think about whether Charlie would get a diagnosis of a psychotic episode or schizophrenic, I think because he may well be a candidate for someone with schizophrenia because he has a lot of episodes kind of like this, has a lot of delusions.
Interesting. Maybe they actually, that's part of the plan, was to try and, yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
Another one that that comes to mind that I was watching a few weeks ago is Black Swan.
Yes.
Have you seen Black Swan?
A very long time ago, yes.
So it's
is that Natalie Portman?
Natalie Portman is a ballerina, is a professional ballerina. Mm-hmm. And Mila Kunis. I don't know how to pronounce her last name.
Yeah.
Kunis.
I just think of that film, Forgetting Sarah Marshall,
where she's the receptionist.
Yeah.
And then ends up falling in love with Jason Segel.
Yeah.
And you see his Willy a couple of times. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Just surprise male, full frontal male nudity.
Yes.
Very good.
Very good. Yeah. And that was my first
Very
actual
funny.
exposure to Russell Brand.
I thought you were going to say a penis. Yeah. Out playing Aldous Snow.
Yeah.
The rock star.
Yeah, and I fell in love with him as a actor in that moment, and then
Yeah.
only later realised that he was also a
Heroin addict.
a really a leader, I guess, in thought and
Well, that came
philosophy
later.
and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah,
He didn't.
true.
He didn't
But
start out like that.
It was there in the background.
Yeah.
And yeah. I mean,
He's like he was a
his
comedian,
podcast-
like a
yeah.
stage comedian. Yeah. Have you seen Get Him to the Greek?
I have not. Is he in that?
Man. Well, that's all about. That's a spin-off from Forgetting Sarah Marshall, where it's like.
So
where
Aldous Snow, the same
they
character,
take
is
that
in that
character and make him the star.
Oh yes. I need to
And then
watch
it's Jonah Hill is like his managed. Well, it has to get. He has to get him to the Greek theatre,
Yeah.
and it's all about Aldous being very difficult to manage. You know, and he's trying to get heroin the whole time.
Yeah, I feel like Aldous is an archetype, and he's nailed an archetype of the male psyche in that portrayal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the rock star.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
But anyway, Black Swan, Natalie Portman, professional ballet dancer, undergoes or has this psychotic episode.
Yes.
Is what I would say that it is. But it's like it's all tied up with a bunch of other things for her. So she is obviously in an extremely stressful environment because she's rehearsing for a huge production. And so that's incredibly stressful, and she's worried about losing her role or not being able to perform it. So she can do the white swan, which is like the elegant, beautiful, and obviously like the black and the white, the symbolism is there. She can do that, but she finds it very difficult to access the black swan, the dark, sexy, sensual, seductive archetype.
Yes.
Female archetype.
Interesting. And is that, I'm just like, I can't remember the film at all, but
Perfect.
My immediate assumption is that it's almost like that there is too much darkness in her own psyche, and so to go into that would be to open a can of worms that is overwhelming.
Yeah,
and,
I think that's a good
what
read of it.
happens in
Yeah,
the film.
that it's repressed.
Yeah.
But so that it is about her trying to access the dark. But I think it's like, that's a pretty good representation of where we are at in society, is the hiding of the dark.
Yeah.
We're too afraid to open that door. We want to leave that down there. But Mila Kunis is, she can embody the dark. So she's more natural with the Black Swan, and Natalie Portman is nervous that Mila Kunis is going to replace her, to take her.
Yeah.
Mila is potentially, although it's hard to tell because Natalie Portman's character is hallucinating a lot, but it's possible that Mila is in a sexual relationship with the director, and kind of Natalie Portman wants to as well. There's this whole weird kind of incestuous love triangle thing going on as well.
Yes.
But so tied up with her incredibly stressful job, she's bulimic. So I think obviously it's there's a lot of pressure on your body in this particular job. So
Yeah.
she's bulimic. She has elements of OCD as well, the way that she prepares her ballet shoes.
Mm-hmm.
She's scratching. So she's scratching her skin.
Mm-hmm.
There's one scene where she's peeling at the skin next to her fingernail, and it just, it
shows you
rips
in
off.
detail, yeah.
But then I think that was actually a hallucination. It didn't happen.
Ah, okay.
But so it's just the viewer that gets to
Yeah.
experience that.
Oh, yeah.
But then, towards the end, so it reaches the crescendo of hallucination and delusion, where they're actually doing the performance. So it's the night of the performance. Natalie Portman does have the role. She is going to be the main ballerina. And halfway through, they're having an intermission. Mila Kunis comes to her door and it's like, "Oh my God, you're doing so well. You're really nailing it." And then I can't remember how it gets to this, but Natalie Portman stabs her. She stabs her with a shard of mirror, kills her, drags her into a closet, and then she leaves her there to bleed out. And then she goes back on stage.
Oh my God. So that's the peak. That's the crescendo. Oh,
Not quite.
Not quite.
So even more spoiling, she comes back for another intermission, goes into the closet, there's nobody there. It's like, oh. So she fully hallucinated that.
Yeah.
And then so the whole movie, she's been scratching at her back, with her nails, breaking the skin.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of the movie, these feathers start to come out of her skin. Because she's basically transforming into the black swan, is physically growing feathers. She finds this bloody patch on her stomach, realizes that she stabbed herself in the dressing room instead of stabbing Mila Kunis, and then delivers the performance of her life and is amazing, but potentially is dead. It's kind of ambiguous at the end whether that was a fatal wound. But anyway.
We have covered off delusions and hallucinations, which I dare say are the two most fascinating positive symptoms of psychosis or schizophrenia or etc. And so there are three left. So just to kind of bring us back, where we're talking about the diagnostic criteria of schizophrenia.
The domains.
And there are delusions, hallucinations, disorganised speech, grossly disorganised or catatonic behaviour, and negative symptoms. 5 domains. Number 3 is where we're up to, disorganised speech.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have an example that I've just found that's publicly available on YouTube of a video of somebody talking with what has been labelled disorganised speech. And I actually transcribed it so I could read it out to you.
Okay.
And you can enjoy a little
listen
in if you like.
Yes, that sounds good.
Okay. So it goes. Like in the daytime when I was outside in the sun, I used to show my friends that they hadn't seen before, like the halo. When I was 19, when I was a preacher, and I had I used to see a little light on my shadow on the ground in the daytime. And now, ever since then, the light is coming further down on my body around the shadow. It's over my body, but around my shadow. Like you see the light, which is your halo. I mean, your aura. And that's why everybody can't see that. But if you've got someone doing the drugs, we'd say, I don't know what's for real. I know from what I see, but I don't know if it's real or not. So that's why you see people different. And say like they have an anointing. Sometimes when I come outside, I can see when I look at the trees, the wind starts blowing because we get oxygen from the plants and we give them carbon dioxide. And so it's the wind usually blows sometimes, but it didn't blow all the time. Like when I'm in the house a long time, it blows real strong.
Yes.
So that's an example of disorganized speech.
I think it's a very good example of disorganized because there's ideas in there and there's images in there, and it's possible to make sense of it, but it just reads like a stream of consciousness. It's stream of consciousness is what it is.
Yeah.
It's like I just want to go in there and like put some paragraphs in, rearrange it, like flesh it out into something readable.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it's not like nonsense words. It's like proper words, but they're just jumbled so as to be an incoherent message in the end.
Yeah, that's right. And there's lots of different types of disorganized speech that exist. And it can just be that sort of like really tangential kind of continuous stream of consciousness style, and that's something that you also see, in people who have who are on, say, dexamphetamines for ADHD.
Wondering if you were going to go there.
Yeah, so that's we know that amphetamine drugs cause this pressure of speech, as they call it. Mm-hmm. Almost like there's a pressure on your speech to and then people express these kinds of tangential thought processes that do make sense, but just kind of leap from one thought to the next and one idea to the next, and can be hard to kind of follow. Yeah. And so it's just how disorganized are we? And there's like just sometimes it's just a complete word salad.
Yes.
And I have an example of that, but I don't think we need to get into that. There's, other examples are sometimes people will just make up lots of words. This is an example in this presentation that I found. What did they say? I got so angry I picked up a dish and threw it at the Geshinka. I don't know what that means, but it's just a random filler in, or like word approximations. So when people, for example, might refer to a ballpoint pen as a paper skate, or a watch as a time vessel, or a stomach as a food vessel.
Those are all excellent words, though. Wait, what was the paper skate?
Paper skate.
That's so good.
I like that.
I might try and use that. Okay, everyone, we're going to do some paper skating.
It sounds a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we're having a cool time paper skating. Yeah. Or the time vessel. Like that is cool.
Yeah, I like that too. Time vessel.
Time vessel.
It contains time.
Yeah.
So, disorganized speech, going off topic, going on a tangent, answering in a question that doesn't make any sense to the other person, talking about things that are seemingly unrelated to the conversation. And so that's category 3. Mm-hmm. Are you satisfied?
Yeah.
So the fourth one is grossly disorganized or catatonic behaviour. Mm-hmm. And so this, it's a broad range of different things, because it's, catatonic, people might have heard of that.
Yeah.
And that's where somebody completely collapses and becomes unresponsive to the external world almost completely, or very little response. But grossly disorganized can mean a whole bunch of things.
So I remember from somewhere that this includes like very strange movements, very strange body movements. And I know that, like, I can't remember what this is called, but I know that this happens where it's like someone will be very stiff and then you can basically lift their arm up and it'll just stay there.
Yep.
And you can just move them around and they don't respond or anything like that. Is that where this falls under?
That's right. And it has a name. It's called catalepsy.
Catalepsy.
Yeah. So there's 12 really common examples. Agitation. So, you mentioned that earlier, and I think that has a specific meaning in this context, which is when a person acts really upset or irritable, but for no clear reason. They're just getting agitated for no reason, it seems.
Like frantic movements.
Or just some, like they're being, you can see that they're getting irritated or angry, but it's like there's no rhyme or reason for it. And then there's the catalepsy, which is what you just described. There's this thing called ecopraxia, where a person will mimic or mirror someone else's behaviors or movements.
Okay, like an annoying little child.
Yeah, I guess so. There's something called grimacing.
Grimacing?
Which is just holding the same facial expression with a stiff or tense facial muscles.
God.
But it can also be like smiling in inappropriate contexts and things like that.
I'm thinking of the Joker.
Yeah, when he's laughing.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a good example.
That is a good example, actually. I've totally forgotten about that.
Yeah.
That's right. He laughs, and he's got a card that he gives to people.
Yeah.
To say, like, hey, I've got this so and so.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's a really good example because here, and especially if you start to look at psychosis through that lens of like trauma-inducing psychosis, somebody experiencing such an overwhelm that something needs to be reorganized in their sense of the world in order for what is happening to be acceptable to their psyche anymore, for them to survive what is going on. And, he's clearly somebody who's been on the receiving end of the worst kind of experiences in society and just ostracized and isolated over and over and over again. And then his laugh seems to be a reaction to people being horrible.
Yeah.
He suddenly finds the shitness of people to be funny.
Is it that he finds it funny though?
Well,
I thought it
appears. It's almost like he's broken. He's kind of hit this breaking point where it has become funny because...
Well, I kind of read it differently. I thought that he was like, it's not that he thinks it's funny, it's that he's laughing, not... It's like his behaviour is out of step with his thought.
Yes, no, you're right. You're absolutely right.
It's almost like some people cry when they're actually not upset. And it's like, it's like, don't worry, I know I'm crying, I'm not... Whereas his is like, I'm not fucking... I don't think it's funny. I actually can't control this reaction that's happening.
I think that's how it starts.
Yeah, okay. And then he leans into it. And
he eventually does find it funny. And I think it's because all along it was funny and that something did break and he did find these things funny. But at the beginning, he was rejecting that sort of step into madness. And then and then he embraces it.
And then everything's funny.
Yeah.
And then killing, becoming a whatever terrorist is funny.
There's a few other examples. Mutism. And this is when a person is very or like totally quiet. And, I think the classic sort of stereotype of catatonia is the person who's just almost like sitting upright or lying down, eyes open, just staring at a wall, really no reaction, which is kind of like the experience that was described in that episode, which we're going to explore in more depth later, from Back from the Abyss. There's a podcast episode about psychosis and psychopharmacology as magic. And the main character of that story is talking about his sister who had an experience of psychosis. And, and was just, there was a particular scene that influenced his life quite dramatically where she was in a catatonic state and he was supposed to be looking after her, babysitting her. And he looked at her and he went through this process of like trying to talk to her. He's like, "Hey sis, I'm here.
She's unresponsive.
Wake up. Like, it's okay. I'm here. It's me." And just nothing, no response. So he went and had a nap or something. And it was in that moment that she got up and left, and
never to be seen again.
Never to be seen again.
They found her body months later or something like that.
I think
in the woods,
years later,
yeah,
in the forest, yeah. It's a really sad story, but so that's There's mutism, and there's negativism is another one where a person doesn't react to anything happening around them. So that's what we've just talked about here. Posturing, and that's where a person just holds a specific position, and in contrast to catalepsy, the one that we mentioned where you can move them wherever you want, this one, you can't put them in this position. They just kind of go to this position. Stereotypy is another example, and that's like repetitive movements that don't have a particular purpose, like finger play or patting or rubbing one's body.
Finger play sounds pretty good.
You would like that.
Yeah.
And then there's this other one which has got a strange name, waxy flexibility.
Okay.
And that's when a person puts up some slight or like pushback or resistance to any attempt to change their position. So their muscles will slowly release and their limbs bend like a warm candle is the description.
What? I don't understand.
I don't understand either.
Okay. We'll put that on the list to figure out what that means.
Yeah. So that's number 4, grossly disorganized or catatonic behavior. And number 5 is the negative symptoms.
Negative symptoms, and that's just like a whole list of them?
Yeah. So basically this is just the decrease or loss of normal functions, such as, inexpressive face, little display of emotions, monotone or like one syllable style speech, very few gestures, difficulty in like coming up with ideas and motivation, and like starting tasks and being proactive with life.
So obviously, there seems to be like a big overlap with depression or depressive symptoms with this, whereas like I think maybe when we think schizophrenia and psychosis, it's very manic and paranoid and anxious, whereas this represents kind of another side where it's very slow, taking themselves out of society, not communicating, withdrawing.
Yeah, and so, like the way I previously had conceptualized psychosis, and so this is how do I explain this? So the negative symptoms are, this withdrawal, maybe anhedonia, like a lack of ability to feel pleasure or joy in life, and this complete collapse of the system, which is, it seems to be kind of like the very opposite of the positive symptoms, where there's like this overexcitement, manic, making meaning out of everything.
Yes.
And there does seem to be a correlate here with the dopaminergic system in the brain, the reward sort of center of the brain. And there are particular pathways in the brain that psychiatrists kind of connect with the positive symptoms and the negative symptoms. Yeah. And there is a sort of, this is something that made sense to me on an intuitive level before, that, because if you've taken too many Dexies or something like that, what's happening is you're increasing the flow of dopamine in the brain, and there are some commonalities between the experiences of people who are on amphetamines and people who are experiencing psychosis. And furthermore, when people overdo amphetamine use to a large extent, there is a tendency to create a drug-induced psychosis. So there's some good evidence of the dopamine system being implicated in psychosis to some extent.
Implicated. Like we've got the line up.
Yeah, here's serotonin. Here's dopamine. It was that one. There's good evidence for it. And there is this, sort of sense in which, particularly when you look at bipolar, that somebody can kind of end up in this like spiral upwards with the dopamine system, where they're going into this manic, excited, hyper meaning making,
It's all
everything.
connected. Maybe some delusions of grandeur going on in there as well. I'm gonna make it.
Yeah, and then it's almost like the dopamine system crashes. I don't know if there's any truth to what I'm saying, but this is something that I had.
If not, it's a nice image or metaphor for what's going on.
Yeah, and then there's a crash.
Yeah.
And then the opposite happens. The dopamine system was ridden too hard, and then it collapses. And so that's the oscillation of the bipolar from the manic to the...
Yeah.
And it's interesting to think about, and I think it's worth reflecting on psychosis more broadly, because I think there is a really strong movement in this field away from these categorizations in the DSM more broadly in mental health, but specifically with schizophrenia and all of these so-called distinctive, disorders, delusional disorder, schizophreniform, brief psychotic, schizophrenia, etc. Bipolar is also included in this list. Another one is schizoaffective disorder. They all have these symptoms in different amounts and different degrees and some other specificities, but they all seem to be describing a common set of experiences that there is a movement to sort of broadly categorize them as an experience of psychosis and varieties of types of experiences of psychosis, rather than trying to categorize these unique different things. And so and this isn't just a small group of fringe people saying, we don't want to be labelled or anything like that. It's coming from the big dogs as well.
So who are the big dogs that you're talking about?
So the British Psychological Society is one,
Brits.
in particular, the Brits. And I'm reading straight out of a book called Rethinking Madness by Paris Williams. And we'll get into this book a lot more in our future ones, but
this could be a good little foreshadowing of what's to come.
Yes. So he writes, the British Psychological Society, in its official report summarising their understanding of mental illness and psychotic experiences, concluded that the research suggests there are not actually clear boundaries between the major psychotic disorders. And this is a quote, I believe, from the British Psychological Society's report saying, "One way of examining the validity of diagnostic categories involves using statistical techniques to investigate whether people's psychotic experiences actually do cluster together in the way predicted by the diagnostic approach. The results of this research have not generally supported the validity of distinct diagnostic categories. For example, the correlation amongst psychotic symptoms has been found to be no greater than if the symptoms are put together randomly. Similarly, cluster analysis, a statistical technique for assigning people to groups according to particular characteristics, has shown that the majority of psychiatric patients would not be assigned to any recognizable diagnostic group. Statistical techniques have also highlighted the extensive overlap between those diagnosed with schizophrenia and those diagnosed as having major affective disorder." And basically, to put this in layperson's terms, the BPS has suggested that the various psychotic disorders are most likely not discrete entities at all, but may more appropriately be classified as variations of one phenomenon, a phenomenon that many have suggested we simply refer to as madness. And I'll just continue a little bit longer.
Yeah.
The BPS has taken these conclusions one step further, suggesting that mental health and mental illness shade into each other and are not separate categories. In other words, they suggest that...
that seems just obvious, doesn't it?
Right. They suggest that not only are the various psychotic disorders best understood as merely representing different points on a continuum of a single phenomenon, but that sanity and madness themselves are also best understood as being different points along a single continuum. And so, in the diagram that comes with this section of the book, they've got a line with the two arrows on the left and the right representing a spectrum. And the first one is a spectrum of psychotic-related disorders. And, on one side you've got schizophrenia, and then on the other side you've got bipolar disorder. And then there's a second spectrum, which I think is the most simple and elegant way to look at this, which is on the left-hand side, you've got madness, and on the right-hand side, you've got sanity. And so this is a different way of looking at, well, as I'll probably start to talk about it now, a different way of looking at madness.
Madness.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the episode. For more episodes or to support the podcast, please follow the links in the show notes or go to alteredmates.com. Adios, amigos!